Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We will get started in just a few minutes. So hang tight. We're just watching as everyone signs in. We should have about another 20 people signing in, and then we will get started according to the registration. And hope you're all doing well. Good morning, everyone. Just so while we're waiting, I'm just going to send out a quick poll question. Just interested, and let's see if we can get some people responding to that. And then we will get started as soon as everyone's logged in. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Intellitech webinar, training webinar. My name is Graham Celine. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Intellitech, and we're very happy to welcome you to this training session for LearnMate today. As most of you are aware, we have made some of the courses available via LearnMate. A lot of people are also taking advantage of LearnMate in a different way to what they've done it before. I would say most of our schools use LearnMate in the classroom or in the lab. And now, because of the current corona virus situation, where most people are teaching remotely, they've been able to take advantage of LearnMate as a hosted remote solution, and many of the students are now logging in and taking part in classes from home. Since many of you are now stepping into this maybe for the first time, or have done a little bit in the past with LearnMate but not really used it heavily, we've set up this short training session with our expert Justin Almeida. Justin will take us through an overview of the system for a user to be able to get started, find their courses, sign up students or invite students, and then at the end we'll take any questions that there are about the system and about the solution that you've been given access to, and we'll be happy to answer as many of those questions as possible. We will make the recording of this available afterwards, so if you want to share this with any of your colleagues who may need to use the system, please feel free to do that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Justin. Go for it.
Thank you, Graham. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. As Graham mentioned, this is going to be just a short overview of our online learning shared site. We've created a course that includes the 4 free courses that you all will have access to. We've tried to minimize the amount of work that will be needed for you and your students to basically get enrolled and start using this course as soon as possible. And I know if you're currently here listening to me, you might have received an email with instructions on how to sign in, and you may have not. I am creating accounts and enrolling users as soon as I can. Please be patient. However, it does take a little bit of time, and I am working on it as quickly as I am able. Without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. I need to change presenter, Graham. Alrighty. So this is the Logon page for online learning, and the email that you will receive from me, I'm going to show that on screen right here, is this right here. So when you receive this email from me, it is pretty straightforward. Includes a list of the courses, a link to the site, your username and password, and then once you've signed in, we have this section down here that you can send over to your students. Now, obviously, everybody is pretty much doing this, I would hope anyway, socially distant, at home, staying safe and healthy. And ideally, you will be able to share this information with your students via email, a chat app, Zoom, forum, some way where you can just copy and paste these instructions right here, send it over to your students, and this is all they will need to log in and to get going. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just walk you around the system a little bit, sign in, show you the courses, show you the layout, where to go to see grades and some other reports. And then I will walk you through this process right here as well to actually have your students create an account. It is a very simple process. They're actually effectively just going to be creating, they're going to be clicking on this button right here to create an account for the first time, and then use the enrollment key that's in that email to actually access the course. So without further ado, that email I sent right here, use my credentials, which is always going to be your email address and a temporary password of this right here on screen. Again, you do not need to write this down right now. It will be in the email. Once you receive that, you can just copy and paste this into the password field and easily log right into the system. Once you've actually logged in, you will see on your dashboard a My Courses section. This is okay, that's duplicated. And it says Foundation Skills. We're going to click into this, and here is the course. Now, if you're not familiar with LearnMate, and even if you are, there's not too much to navigating around the system as a non-editing teacher. You don't have to worry about making any changes to the course, deleting anything. You have no fear about any of those issues or problems that you might run into. The way we've set this course up here is these are the 4 courses: Introduction to Advanced Manufacturing, Employability, Safety Fundamentals, and Mechanical Blueprint Reading. You may or may not want to use all these. You might only want to use employability, for example. And if that's the case, you can just expand this and all of the lessons will be visible for you. This is both your view and your student's view. So essentially, if you want your students to use safety fundamentals, just have them sign into the course. Again, their view will be very much similar to this, and we will see that later. To ask them to expand safety fundamentals, and if it's self-paced, you can just have them go into each of these lessons individually, or if you want to direct them specifically, just walk them through, like if you're doing a video conference or a webinar or something like this, you can just walk them through and say, okay, expand safety fundamentals, click into lesson 5, workplace behavior, for example. All right, so we have, again, because these courses are combined, there is actually a lot of information here, which is why they're collapsed topics. You can open them all if you'd like. And as you can see, there is a lot of lessons and reviews that are available for you and your students. I'm just going to go ahead and walk you through this left menu over here. This is the participants page. If you'd like to see the participants in your course, for example, obviously I'm the only user in my particular group, so this is the only user I'm going to see because I'm not going to be inviting anybody for the purposes of this demonstration. However, once your students are in the course, you'll be able to click on participants here in this left menu, and you can see the last time they've accessed this course right here under this column. Obviously, you can also see the rest of their details. This is really handy if you just want to check to make sure that somebody says they've been in a course or the last time they've accessed it. We actually don't have any badges or competencies set up for these particular courses right now, so we can ignore these at the time. Grades. Once your students start making grade data and making attempts, they will appear here in the grader report. Now, again, unfortunately, I don't have any data here to show you, although I can take an assignment as a student a little bit later if we have time and show you what it looks like. Essentially, your students will appear just like this is Excel. Their student name will be over here on the left, and as they make attempts in the system, they will get grades for these various reviews. This is because of the size of the course, this can get pretty large. I don't want that to feel too overwhelming, however. If you would like to see the information on a user by user basis, we can go up to this drop down right here, click user report, and then we can actually choose an individual user and this drop down right here on the right, and then you can actually see one user's progress. So the default grader report is great for just a quick overview. However, if you're working one-on-one with a student, I do recommend using the user report and then choosing that specific student right here. It's a really simple way to get one-on-one with a user. If you'd like to go more of an overview for a specific review, for example, and this I can't, unfortunately, again, I don't have any grade data. One of the things that you'll be able to do is there will be a link right here that says attempts with a number after it. So once your class has actually taken attempts in the system, you can click this and you'll be able to see a snapshot of all of the attempts, the grade data, the time that's taken them, the grades, questions, like pretty detailed report. And I think I'm gonna make sure I make the time to take a test review in the system. That way everybody can see exactly what that looks like. And of course, if anybody has any questions after this webinar, I can absolutely and help you answer those questions and walk you through this at a more detailed level. Going back to this main menu right here, we're not really concerned with too many more of these links at the time, at this moment. If you do want to get around more quickly, you can click on these and it will bring you down to certain sections in the course. So this left menu is really just about high-level navigating of the course, gaining access to participants really quickly, and grades. If you'd like, you can collapse this menu. So if you're working on a device with a smaller screen and you want to recoup some screen real estate, click this left menu right up here and get rid of this menu. This is really useful when you're using lessons, which is what I'm about to walk into to show you. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Intro to Advanced Manufacturing. What we have here is our lessons, and at the top of each lesson, you will notice these items here that are grayed out with the blue tags underneath that say hidden from student. These are instructor resources that are available for you. It is entirely at your discretion if you'd like to share any of this information with your students. They do include answers for some of the questions in the curriculum. But if you do have any questions or looking for assistance, these would be one of the first places to go because they are specific to the course. Each of these courses has some instructor resources. It might just be a guide. For example, employability and safety fundamentals don't require too much, and neither do blueprint reading. Introduction to Advanced Manufacturing, however, has more activities and projects built into it. So there's a couple more resources that are made available to you. And like I said, these are always available right up here at the top, and they have this blue tag right here that says hidden from students. There's also a course outline and materials, which I'm going to assume not really too much of a focus right now for anybody, but they are here. So if you're looking at getting into, or you wanted to see an outline of a course and you're not quite sure what topics you'd like to get into, go ahead and open up this. So this is the course outline for advanced manufacturing, and it gives you a title page for each of the lesson activities in this particular course. So if you are looking for something specific, or you want to try to make a plan, or only look at certain pages in the curriculum, this outline will give you a perfect idea of where each of these pages are and what the particular topics talk about. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this introduction lesson. To access the lesson, we click on the hyperlink in the course. This will bring you to the landing page, as I call it. So this lesson has a landing page, a review, a post-test, an assignment. They all have landing pages that allow you to access the course. When we're on this page, we go ahead and click the enter button. And what's going to happen is the lesson is going to download to the user's computer. And then it will be displayed. Now, a couple things to note here. These lessons here in this particular course, and I do believe all 4 of these courses are all HTML5 compatible. So that means they can be viewed on any Windows-based Apple device or Chromebook as long as it is capable of running HTML5. So anybody who has a Chromebook or even a Mac OS at home, go to town. You can absolutely look at this curriculum. All you really need is a browser. It's one of the beautiful things about LearnMate and distance learning in general. For content consumption, when you're just looking at the content in the course and materials, a browser will do, and it can be a browser on any particular hardware device. Now, so that's why we're able to give that type of compatibility. We do sell and have other courses on offer that might require hardware or software to be installed, for example, such as CNC Motion or RoboCell. And in those particular cases, if you do happen to be using a course that requires IntelliTech support software such as those, you do need to be running a Windows-based computer. But for the consumption of the content itself, you can still use Chrome device or an Apple device, for example. Now, once the content is loaded, I go ahead and collapse this menu. So you can see it'll be a little bit more difficult to tell, but when I collapse this menu, the content stretches out a little bit bigger. You don't really see the benefit of that as much on my particular monitor, but if you are running on a smaller laptop or a Chromebook, for example, collapsing this menu will make the content bigger, and it could be the difference between a student really being comfortable and not, and even yourself. Again, like if you have a small device with a 13, even a 15-inch screen, you're really going to want to collapse this menu to try to make sure the lesson takes up as much space as possible on your screen. So now that we've got the lesson open, the navigation of the lesson is pretty straightforward. We have a next button over here. We click this, it goes to the next page. If I want to go back to page 1, I click the left button. You can tell what page you're on down here. We're on page 1 of 30, and that's pretty much it. Some lessons do include a menu or a glossary, and all kind of depends on the content. But for the better part of what you and your students are going to need to do to access this curriculum is just clicking forward and backward. So as you and your students go through, they read the content, and they just continue to click next, proceed. This is entirely self-paced. So, if you feel comfortable allowing your students to go ahead at their own pace and give them requirements to, say, get through 3 lessons and 3 reviews on a daily basis, you can absolutely do that. On the other hand, if you do want to use a video sharing solution like Zoom, for example, and you actually, or go to webinar, go to meeting, and actually present it like we're doing here, and do slide by slide and page by page with your students watching you do it, you can absolutely do that as well, and you can even have them follow along. That entirely up to you, depending upon which methodology you prefer. Even if you want to swap back and forth, you want to make sure your students go through a lesson, you can do it with them using a conference tool, or if you want it to be self-paced, you can allow them to do that as well. Now, when I want to go back to the lesson, back to the course main page, there's a couple of different ways of doing that. The easiest is right here through this main menu. We click on FS, which stands for Foundation Skills, and this will bring us back to the course main page. That's navigating a lesson in a nutshell. Pretty much all of the lessons, whether they are a core or an activity, are that straightforward. This icon right here, or these icons I should say, kind of give you an idea of what element this is in a course. So this, I'm hopeful everybody is familiar with this icon here. It's a PDF file. This right here just means this is a lesson. And then this right here with this check mark means it's a review. So this is an actual test in the system that your students can take. And then this right here is an assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this review test. We're going to go to the landing page. And I'm just going to walk you through this test question by question. Now, I'm a teacher in the system, so I'm only actually able to preview the quiz. So my data doesn't actually get saved as far as an attempt is concerned, but we still are able to actually go through the review and answer it as if we were a student. So this screen is a little bit more data on it. Questions are typically one question per page. That'll tell you over here, question number 1. We've not answered it. It's worth 1 mark. And then over here, we actually have the quiz navigation that tells you how many questions are in this particular review. So we're gonna just go ahead and fly through this. Let's see, match each product with the manufacturing process most likely to be used to manufacture it. Okay, let's see, I don't even know. Space vehicle, sure, seems reasonable. Mass, crew, and production becomes safer. Once we've answered all of the questions, we can see over here this quiz navigation, the tiles changed color, okay? That lets us know an answer has been saved, as does this summary. As of right now, I've taken the review, but I haven't actually submitted it. This is very important. We have some students who say, oh yeah, I took the review. They did, however, they forgot to click this button down here, which is submit all and finish. This is important to make sure that their grades are actually recorded in the system. I'm going to click this and it actually asks for a confirmation. So this is a very easy thing to know with your students. If their reviews and grades are done in the system and they telling you up and down that they did it, they didn't click submit and they didn't click the submit again to confirm it. Now, we see something a little different here. Your students aren't actually going to see this. They're basically going to get a screen that tells them what their score is. Because, again, as a teacher, you're not getting the same experience as your students, which is why I will make sure to show you that later. But I just wanted to walk you through to see that your process and how you answer these questions is effectively the same as your students, just the data and the screen looks a little bit different. So up here in this summary, and this is data that you will have access to as a teacher, you do see that I started this at 10:22 a.m. I'll fix the time zone. The state is finished. I completed it at 10:24, so you knew it took me 2 minutes and 7 seconds. We're gonna go ahead and use this jump to drop-down box down here. Okay, this has all of the items in a course that you can actually jump to. So if you do know where it is in a course you want to go, you can click on that and you can bounce around a little bit. This is a little bit easier than clicking on this FS course link over here and then scrolling to find the course element you want to jump into. So if you do know what you're looking for, you can absolutely use this. Or if you are just going from one item to the next, you can use these red buttons down here to continue along and go to the next item as necessary. All right, we're going to go back to this course main page and just collapse this topic. Now, let me find that email again. All right, going back to this email here for a quick second. I want to bring your attention to another thing we have in here. This is a student guide that is essentially going to cover everything that I'm talking about right now, except obviously it's in a PDF format. I highly recommend that you keep this, at least the link available, and you can absolutely send this to your students. It is a step-by-step process on how to do some of these tasks that we're talking about today. It is very straightforward. It's extremely helpful. And if you are looking for a step-by-step instruction, or your students, they want to do it themselves, you can absolutely send them this file. It will give them an overview of the entire interface, which is very helpful and very straightforward. So that link is available in the email, and it is also available in the help files block, which I need to add to this course. Yep. All right. So there will additionally be a help files block that I need to add. Go ahead and add to this course. Yep. It's not here right now. All right. I can't show that real quick. All right. So I will do that in a moment. All right. Grades. Now, one of the other things, let me go back here. Let's go back to this course main page. All right. One of the other things, we do have some reporting available, although it will be limited just because of the setup that we have here. Underneath your name in the top right-hand corner, we have this red gear. This is the course administration menu. We open this up and we click on more. And then from here, we can click on the reports tab. So inside the reports tab, again, we do have several reports in the system. I'm not exactly sure how well it's going to work, only because of this current setup. Let's see, let me find review one. Just to show you, but I don't think it's going to show anything because I'm a teacher. Yeah, so I'm a teacher. Well, actually, no. So this actually recorded that I attempted the review. Doesn't give you any detailed information for that. We would actually go into the review and take a look at it, but this records that I was in the review and I participated. We're going to go ahead and click this course administration and go ahead and look at the reports again. So there aren't, let's see, what else could we use here? Activity report. I'm trying to see what would be useful for you as a teacher. With this current setup. So you can use this page and it really tells you last access, but for what you're looking for right now, that would be better handled with participants. All right. Let's go ahead and create some data. I'm going to go ahead and modify my account here in the background. I'm going to make myself a student in the system. So give me one moment to do that. And hey, Graham, do you have anything you want to add while I take care of this? It should only be a couple of minutes.
I don't have anything to add. I think you've done a great job so far, Justin. I'm learning stuff that I didn't know, which is not difficult, but I think that the richness of the system is important, and what you're seeing here is that you have access to a lot of the features and functions of the system even though you only have a small number of courses. There are multiple other courses available, and so as you go through these, if these are completed by your students, or there are topics that are not relevant because you may have taught them already, skip over them, move on to the next course, and then contact your Intelitech partner locally, because there are about another 15 courses in this series of foundation skills. There are multiple courses on the more advanced training that can also be run remotely, and so feel free to do that. I hand back to Justin when he's ready.
Thank you, Graham. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the same process that your students were going to go ahead to use to create an account. Should actually do that again. So this is the login page. Okay, very straightforward, very simple. I went ahead and deleted my teacher account just so I could create this student account. Very straightforward process. We click this button down there that says create new account. We go ahead and type in our information. I'm just, for the purposes of simplicity, I'm just going to go ahead and use this right here. Okay. We fill out the details. We enter our first name, last name, username, and password as a minimum requirement. They do not need to enter city, town, or country. Of course, Chrome just auto-populated that information. Oop, okay. We click the site policy and agreement, and we click create new account. Now, what's going to happen? Okay. An email should have been sent to your email address. We click OK. I'm just waiting for that email to come in. Okay. Here is the email that I just received. So the emails your students will receive should be, minutes. If somebody says I signed up for an account and they haven't yet received the email, I would ask them first check their junk or spam folder. And if it's not there, please give me a call or send me an email and I can figure out what happened. Chances are they might have accidentally typed in their username and email address incorrectly. But if not, we can sort out any account issues along those lines. But first, please have them check their junk and spam folders first. Once the email is received, they click on this link. This is to confirm your account. And then once their account is confirmed, they are in the system and they don't have access to anything. This is where it comes back to this information here. So the first thing we did was we clicked this link as a student, we created our account. The second thing we need to do is click this link, Foundation Skills, and then we see the course. Your students now need to enter that enrollment key. So if we go back to this email, and again, we can copy paste this, copy paste, enroll me, incorrect enrollment key, please try again. Okay, 1 second. I think I forgot to set the enrollment key. Great thing is these things are very easy to fix. Okay, yep. All right, sorry about that. So we will enter our enrollment key, click enroll, and they are given access to the course. So from a student perspective, signing up for an account, a couple of minutes, and then enrolling into the course, 10 or 15 seconds. Once they've done that, they should have access to these courses. And you'll notice now that my view as a student is very similar to the previous view that you were seeing as a teacher. It'd almost be impossible to tell the difference. We click up here on participants, and actually I deleted my teacher account, so it's no longer here. But we go on here now and we can see the other users in this particular group, which of course are none. Now, however, if I click on grades, I'm only going to see my grades. It defaults to the user report. And I can also use the overview report, which is the entire grade for the course. So now as a student, I only have access to my information. Just so everybody sees, I want to drive home the point that the views that you see as a teacher compared to as a student are extremely similar. In this particular case, the easiest thing to notice is those instructor resources. We don't see them. Okay, those instructor resources are not available as a student. So I get a lot of teachers who say, "Oh, I need to see it as a student's going to see it." This is how a student sees it. It's almost exactly the same way as you see it. It's just you see some of the hidden items and you have access to some of the extra data like review attempts from all of your class or all of your group in this particular case. So when we go into the same lesson that we accessed earlier as a teacher, it looks exactly the same. This particular page and any of the lessons, there's going to be no negligible difference between you as a teacher and your students. All right, now let's go ahead and look at this review. Okay, let's create a little bit of data here. You'll notice this landing page as well. I kind of skipped over this last time, the actual details on it, but this is review test 1. Tells you how many attempts and what the grading method is. So each of the students by default have 2 attempts for the review tests and 1 attempt for the post-test. In the case of the reviews, the grading method is the last attempt taken. If they get 100 the first time out, they do not need to take it again. If they do take it again and they don't get 100, that second last attempt, they get 50, for example, will be their grade in the system. So I would discourage, again, all depends on what you're doing with grading as well. If you're going to use grades in the system here for anything in the classroom to port over to a grade book or to show work, and it's going to go towards their course and the completion, I would discourage if they do receive 100 the first time out, I would discourage them from taking it again. Just means it's a little bit more work on your part to just kind of make sure that everything lines up correctly. But if you're just using this for them to consume and try to learn, I absolutely allow them to take a second one. But again, that is also entirely up to you. We're going to go ahead and attempt this quiz. So if you remember as a teacher, you might notice that again, this view is extremely similar. Question number over here, we haven't answered it yet. Tells you how many marks it's worth, and the quiz navigation over here. Division of labor means that one worker would now have to divide his or her time between a number of tasks. False. Click next. Click next. Okay, I did math last time. Next. And I'm just gonna finish attempt. All right, so here's my summary. I've saved all answers for all 4 questions. We click submit and finish. Click confirm, submit, and finished. Oh, okay, we are seeing the, okay. And we are seeing an actual detailed review of this. And you'll notice that there is no indication of right or wrong at this point. So this is the question. This is what I answered. And let's go ahead and just looking at grades. Review test, calculated weight is 100%. I got a 50. Okay. So as a student, yeah, shows 50 because this is, yep. So as a student, once they've completed a review, they can click on the grades and they can scroll through this list and they can see their grade for each of the reviews as they go ahead and complete them. Oh, just trying to make sure I haven't missed anything. We've pretty much covered everything that is important for you and your students to access at this moment. Sorry, I got a kitty who wants to join our webinar. Yeah, I think that is sufficient. Graham, if there are any questions that we want to have answered, or if anybody has any other issues we need to work out.
Yeah, well, so let's just open it up. If anybody wants to ask a question, you can either raise your hand and I can turn the audio on, or you can type it into the question box. We had one question that said, can you touch on skill drills and in particular submitting their work? We have a few students not being able to submit their work. I know you touched on the evaluations. I'm not sure if it's the same thing.
It's not. Skill drills are assignments in the system. They're a little bit more complex and I did not touch upon them. So effectively, each of the assignments are a little different. Let me see if any of these actually have, Snoopy, come on, sorry. Let's see, skill. See if I actually have one here. Okay, skill drill. So Glenn, we have the skill drill here in BA02 mechanical blueprint reading. So looking at this icon here, it's a hand holding a piece of paper. The name is skill drill. I just want to link these two items together in everybody's head. Scroll back up. So this item here, skill drill 1, is an assignment, just like this assignment right here for the arrow plane. Both of these assignments in the system are handled in basically the same way. Let's go ahead and look at the skill drill. So this is usually easier to handle in class. It might be a little bit more work to do in an online forum, only because your students will need to actually submit the information to you and you can 100% use the system. So let's go ahead and, oh, that's right, we have to start it over here, excuse me. So this is where they actually submit the work. The skill drill itself is downloaded from the lesson. So we're gonna go ahead and open up skill 1. And we're going to download the skill drill worksheet. So as your students are going through a lesson assignment attached to it, they will receive instructions to download a file and then fill out that information. Or answer the questions. It always depends on what is being asked in that particular drill or assignment. These are typically lab activities that are done in the classroom. Just I don't know what page it's on, so I'm just going through. It should be near the end somewhere. Okay. So here's the effective start of the skill drill. Okay, this particular one, we're going to learn how to identify lines and their functions on a blueprint. So these are all examples that will help them complete this particular skill. Okay. And we're just looking for the worksheet. All right. So see the words here, print out skill drill worksheet. This is more set up for a lab environment. Typically, students would need to print this out and then answer the questions and then hand it to you. My recommendation for handling this online would be for your students to save the file as a Word file, or they can do it as a Google Sheet and save that. And as long as they can effectively attach it to the assignment, I'll have to show you that in a second, then that will allow them to submit the assignment for grading. So in this particular case, I mean, I'm going to do something just very low key, you know. Question 1, answer the question. True. 2, I'll even do this. Skill 1. So this is obviously something very low tech compared to what is available in terms of, you know, cloud-based and online sharing, but it allows them to make the submission process easier at one of the later steps, which is why I would recommend a notepad file or a Word document or some file that they can create. It can even be a picture. I see there's a question in there about a picture. If somebody wanted to open up MS Paint and type this into a picture, for example, they could absolutely do that, but Notepad is obviously going to be a little bit easier because you as the teacher can actually look at the file and download it. And if you wanted to make edits, type notes into the file for them to later send it back to the student, that would obviously make that process easier. Number 2, we're just going to say C. Number 3, hidden. So I'm doing this different on purpose. You know, your students might choose A, B, C. They might type out the answer. I guess you could provide some guidance on how you want them to do that exactly. We'll say A, and then 5. We'll say B, and then 6, D. Okay. So at this point, we can save this file. Of course, my computer. I play a lot of video games, so. Let me just save this here to my desktop. Skill drill 1. All right. The important part in this is that they either name the file to match the name of the skill drill, or they at least put the information inside the file so you can identify it more easily. My recommendation would be naming it skill drill 1. That way you can see it in a list. If you wanted to even create a folder somewhere of all of the skill drills that your students send you, that way you could very easily look through a folder, see if somebody's missed something instead of having to go through the system. I know some people like to work a little bit more personally in that particular case. We're going to go ahead and go back into the assignment now. Okay, so for that, I'm going to go ahead and exit the activity. As a student, I've now completed this skill drill. I need to submit this for my teacher. We click on skill drill 1. We come down here to add submission. Now we're going to go ahead and upload the file. So we click this button here for add. This allows us to add a file. This allows us to add or create a folder. We click this. We click upload. We choose desktop, skill drill 1, select the file. Okay, so the browsing and navigating the file, I hope everybody is comfortable with and familiar with. Students might not be as familiar with that. My recommendation is that they attempt to try to save these files into their documents folder or their desktop and they might even want to do and actually create a folder on their desktop to do that. However, once they've selected the file, we can go ahead and upload this file. When you see it appear here with red text, that means the file has been successfully uploaded. I can actually click on it, I can download it, I can delete it, so I can basically interact with the file. Once it's uploaded, we click Save Changes. And then once we've saved changes, our submission status has changed. We now see that there's a draft. We see it has not been submitted. We see it is not graded. And we see when it was modified. All right, I'm just going to bring this up as a teacher view on a different tab here. Okay, so at this point, the student is almost there. Again, as far as the system is concerned, this is a draft only. Much like a review, they've saved and performed the work, but they haven't actually submitted it to the system yet. They have to come down here and click Submit Assignment. If they do realize they've made a mistake or they need to change something, they can click Edit Submission, which will bring them back to this upload process, which will allow them to upload a new file. As the text here notes, once this assignment is submitted, you will not be able to make changes. So it's important, and I'm sure you can all agree that it's important that the work is right the first time. Once they're ready to submit the assignment, we click the button, get another confirmation screen. Are you sure? You will not be able to make changes. We click Continue. Now, I'm going to show you this window over here. So here is what the skill drill looks like. Sorry, I know I just quickly changed the screen here. This is what the skill drill assignment looks like from a teacher's perspective and the draft status, okay? You can see right here, it's draft, it's not submitted. We can still grade it. We can perform a couple of items or a couple of tasks on this particular submission, but this is currently the draft status, okay? You see who it comes from, what time it was submitted, and you can actually also download the file as a teacher. Now, one of the cool things is you also receive, as a student, an email saying you have submitted an assignment. So students can be offered that guidance that if they have successfully submitted an assignment, they will receive an email from the system. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. All right, so now we're back in that student view. We see here we have this green box submitted for grading, and we know this was submitted at 11:52. And as of yet, the teacher has not graded it. Now, you as a teacher, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page. We'll notice this right here, changes from draft to submitted for grading. This now gives you the opportunity to grade it. We can click on this grade button right here. Now, one of the cool things, I guess it doesn't do it with text files. Some file types will automatically show a preview. I think it works for PDFs and Word documents. It does not do it for text. However, if you need to see, you can just download the file and open it. So this is the file that was submitted previously by my student. You need to compare this to the worksheet answers, which I suppose I can bring that up on yet another tab, right? We all don't have enough tabs in our lives. Oh, no, I get it. Sorry, what am I looking for here? No. Is it in the file? Oh, yeah, duh. Sorry, I'm spacing it a little bit. I had it earlier. I am having difficulty finding the rubric. Hold on one second. And it might be now because I'm signed in as a admin account, so it's a little different for me. It did come up earlier when I was in here as a teacher. Yeah, I think I need to be as a teacher. Okay, so I don't have the answers for this particular skill drill at my fingertips at the moment. I would need to sign in as a teacher account, which I deleted to do this. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So essentially at this point, we compare the answers with what the student has submitted. And this is more subjective. It's not like the reviews, which are all automatically graded and calculated. This requires that manual process and manual aspect to it. But once you have compared this to the answers, you click this grade button. And you submit a grade right here. We're just going to say 100. If you want to provide comments, good job. We click that, we provide a grade. And then there's two things down here that are important. This notify students. If we leave this checked, your students will receive an email saying that the assignment has been graded. I personally wouldn't notify my students only because I don't want to overload them with emails, but it is entirely up to everybody and how they want to handle that. But once we're set with this information, we click Save Changes, or if you have to grade another submission, we click Save and Show Next. So I'm just going to click Save Changes. We click OK. And we come up here and we see that it has been submitted for grading and it has been graded. So we can actually go ahead and go back to look at all of the submissions, and we can see that this grade button now has a 100 over 100 here at the end, and we have the feedback comments right here and the final grade right there. And now if we go ahead and refresh our page, we're now looking at this as a student. We see the feedback, 100 out of 100. It was graded at 1158. It was graded by, again, the Intelitech support account, and the feedback comments are good job. So you can absolutely provide feedback that your students will immediately see right here. And as the student, if I now go to my grades, we're just going to scroll down, and skill drill 1, score of 100. And the feedback displays here as well. And I do want to point out one thing here as well. The lessons are listed in the gradebook, but none of these are actually graded. So I made sure that these were all put at the bottom so they don't clutter up your view too much and you don't actually have to scroll through them to get to the data you actually want. Okay, so anytime you see these, whether that's in this user overview here, or if it's in any of the other views like if you're actually in the gradebook and you're looking at the Excel view, for example, you can just ignore these lessons, but they should be at the end. That way you don't have to, again, so you don't have to scroll through them to get by to that actual grade data that you're looking at. Now, we have multiple assignments across many of our different courses in the system. REC, for example, has a lot of assignments, and then our Job Master curriculum has a lot of assignments. They are all handled in terms of submitting a file in exactly the same way. The student reads a task, or they receive a task for the assignment. They read it in the lesson. The lesson gives them instructions on either to download a file or to perform some activity, and then to show that work to the instructor. And in a lot of cases, it's just they have to follow the instructions in the file, because the assignments are going to change, of course, depending upon what particular curriculum you're looking at. For this particular curriculum, the assignments are pretty much the skill drills that are seen in blueprint reading, and we have some assignments up here as well in advanced manufacturing. And the important thing just to remember to actually read the activity and then follow the instructions to perform the assignment / skill drill. I lost my question page.
Yeah, I think the only most of the questions have been dealt with, Justin. There's one question that says in the drop-down response questions, are they graded such that one wrong answer marks the whole question wrong, or would be given partial credits?
For which question is that?
Drop-down response.
On the drop-down response questions, are they graded such that? Okay, it's partial credit, Brittany. 100% partial credit. Yep. So that's true for any multiple choice review in the system, whether it's a drop-down or a question that has multiple correct answers. It is partial credit.
I think the only thing that I wanted to just recommend we just touch on, Justin, is the for people that are taking on other courses, and there are, like I said, multiple other courses available in the system that are relevant and can be used remotely. The one requirement that you would have once you get into the more sophisticated courses, for example, Fundamentals of Robotics requires that we use the RoboCell simulation software. And to do that, you would have to install software on the local computer. So maybe, I don't know how quickly you can touch on to that. We are kind of over the 1 hour for those people that are interested to stick along. For those that are not, thank you for attending, and we will make this recording available. So if you want to share it with other people in your organization who may be using the system, please feel free to check back at the same link and you'll find the recording probably in a few hours from now. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Graham. So like I mentioned earlier, if you are using a course that requires any of our software does need to be installed to a Windows-based computer. So RoboCell, CNC Motion, EasyC, or if you're using the new VEX for V5, REC for V5, and you're using the VEX software, they have the VEX blocks, VEX code. They currently have a Windows installer only, if I recall correctly, but they are pushing forward to support Mac and I think Chromebooks. But that is entirely up to VEX in terms of which environments they support. So if you find yourself using one of our courses that requires software, all of our software is available from downloads.intellitech.com. And I want to make sure I get the help block too. And the software is available on this page, and it's extremely simple. There's no ads, there's no marketing, it's just the software and product manuals. So software, for example, we click on download software. We're working with robotics, we'll go for RoboCell. we're working with a particular piece of hardware, that's the ER4U. So we click on this ER4U link here. And then we're looking for RoboCell or Score-based. There is one executable file. If I want to install Score-based to the system, I download this file right here. If I want to install RoboCell, I download this file right here. If I want to install both, you guessed it, we download this file right here. This is the only executable you need. So if you're installing it on multiple computers, even if you're installing it on home or at school, you can just link to this file. Obviously, for multiple computers, it's easier to download this file to a thumb drive, and then you can take that thumb drive to each of the computers and install the software, which is pretty straightforward. Our software is very simple to install. It's really just clicking next. In some cases, I'm not going to walk through an install right this moment, but in most cases, you only have to choose the hardware that you're actually using. Or the hardware that you're mapped to. So even if we're virtual, you would still download the software and install it for the ER4U. That way it sets up and configures for the actual hardware in question. Other versions or different versions of our software, I should say, if you're using a Scour robot, that's actually RoboCell V10. If you're using an older ER9 or ER14, that is RoboCell 6 or 8, depending upon the license you have. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this main software page. CNC machining we have right here, Sim, FMS, automation. So if you're using any of our motions products for Hydra Motion, PLC Motion, New Motion, or Process Motion, you can grab that stuff right here from the automation tile. Programming would be where you find EasyC. And again, depending upon what license you have, you want to make sure you download the appropriate version of EasyC. It is worth noting that, effectively, EasyC PIC, EasyC Pro are only supported up to Windows 7. These only work for the PIC controller. EasyC V4 and V5 are also only supported up to Windows 7, but these use the Cortex controller. V5 and V6 support the IQ controller, but only V6 is supported in Windows 10 environments. And this is only used with our REC for Cortex or our Exploring Robotics curriculum that uses the IQ controller. If you're using Bex's new V5 hardware that was recently released, you are not using EasyC, you're using Bex's programming solution. I just want to point that out and make sure that is clear, because we still do get questions on, where's EasyC for V5? Unfortunately, we do not have that. CNC software. We go to the CNC tile, we click CNC control software, CNC base, and CNC motion. So just like RoboCell, just like Score-based, it's one executable file for both versions of the software. This supports our current products, which is the Bench Mill, Pro Mill series, along with the Bench and Pro Turns. So if you can currently buy it, this is the software that you want to download. If you have our older equipment, you'd want to go into the previous versions folder, the discontinued folder, and we're talking much of the legacy ProLite and SpectraLite equipment. In addition, so that's just software. In addition to that, let me get to fix one thing here. It said I needed to add the help block. All right, so as a student or a teacher, we also have our help files. This help files, help and support block, I mentioned this earlier, and I should have probably covered this before everybody started leaving. You also need to download, from a software perspective, you need to download this LearnMate agent setup file. This is actually what bridges LearnMate and our support software together. So as your users are, and these courses are not good examples, but as your users are going through the course material, there will be icons and click here links that say to open RoboCell, click here. And when you click here, that file is opened with our LearnMate agent, which will then in turn read the file, apply the LearnMate license to that particular computer, Windows-based computer that it's being opened on, and it will license and launch the software for 3 to 4 hours temporarily. But between these two files, or between this LearnMate agent file and any of the particular support software that you need available here on downloads.intellitech.com, that can get any of your students up and running on their computers at home.
And I think that we've kind of run out of time. We've gone over, and I think that was an excellent session, Justin. Thank you very much. I'm sure that people will be very capable to use the system right now. For people that do have questions, support@intellitech.com is the best way to go about it. If you go to our website, there's also a form that you can fill in there and send in more details. Feel free to reach out for support if you need it. If there are additional people that need this training, like I said, there will be a recording of this webinar. Somebody asked, can I repeat that? And the repeat was support@intellitech.com. If you have any questions, please just send an email to our support desk and somebody will take care of you as soon as possible. And that's about it. So thank you all for attending. I hope this was as beneficial for you as it was for me. Thank you, Justin. And
Absolutely.
in this difficult time, please stay safe and stay healthy and stay at home. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you all for attending. Please don't hesitate to give me a call or email for help and assistance. You're very welcome, Glenn. Y'all have a good day.